Hello, everybody, and welcome to our latest Lioness community event. If I don't know you already, hi, I'm Bobby Carlton. I'm the founder of Innovation Women. I'm also the editor in chief and publisher of Lioness Magazine. And we do these community events on a monthly basis to give our community a chance to connect and also have some fascinating discussions. Full disclosure, we take this content and we create articles from it. So if you have anything to say that you don't want other people to hear, don't say it. All right. As a PR, as your PR person, as your resident PR person, I'm here to make sure that you present yourself well at any moment. So just keep in mind that we are recording this for posterity. So just real quickly, next slide, Liam. This is a community event and there will be networking. So stay respectful of others. Definitely put your intros and anything that you are promoting into the chat. If you want to connect with other folks, you can do that by sharing something like your LinkedIn connection and such. Definitely, please stay muted unless we call upon you. And use that raise your hand function that is in the controls at the bottom of your Zoom screen. That helps us keep things organized. We definitely always prioritize questions, but we want to hear your thoughts on this topic. And again, anything self promotional or whatever, definitely drop that in the chat. We're also trying to make sure that everybody always feels comfortable. So this isn't the place for the big sales pitch or solicitations. Next slide, Liam. So today, welcome time. We're going to be talking about learning and development. We'll have a group discussion and then we'll have some breakout sessions where we will be sharing questions to enable you to talk about things. We'll then bring everybody back. And when we bring everybody back, what we're looking for is if each group assigns a spokesperson, awesome. That helps keep things organized. Or feel free to use that raise your hand function and share your thoughts with the whole group. We'll also be sharing links for future events and also promoting our upcoming webinar here with Lioness Magazine, another learning and development topic. So, tomorrow at 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock Eastern, we'll be talking with a number of experts in learning and development. So we're talking about how we're prioritizing learning and development, and it is necessary for creating a culture of growth and innovation inside your organizations, no matter how big or small they are. So that's one of the things. You all need to be doing some learning and development for yourself as well. But it's so easy to get caught up in the press of the work that we have to do as entrepreneurs, as small business people. So we're trying to make sure that everybody gives themselves the time to gain new skills, to think about how we are going to be addressing these changing times and keep growth top of mind for our companies. So we've got that link into the chat so that you can sign up for tomorrow's webinar as well. So today we're going to kind of kick off with a poll. I'm curious for each one of you. Liam, if you can throw that poll out for everybody. Do you take time for your own learning and development? Are you making time for it? Oh, I'm loving this. Wow, everybody's big time on the yeses. Yay. Um, I'm I have to admit, as the host, if I was answering this, I would probably be in the are you kidding answer. So I think everybody has actually responded to this. And we're, yeah, we've got yes. 100% everybody's here saying yes. I prioritize, I make time for learning and development. So that is awesome to see. It really is. And um Liam, I don't need to see those slides in just a moment. Oops, I was going to say our question kind of for the group discussion is everything's changing all the time. How do you personally stay on top of the trends and the changes and learn new things in your industry? So, anyone want to kick off this discussion? That whole using the raise a hand function. If we have anybody who would like to share how it is you're managing, please tell me. I'm terrible at this. So, and again, that raise your hand function is in the bottom of the screen. Whitney kicking us off. Thank you so much.
Hi, how are you? Hold
Good.
on,
How
let
are
me lower
you?
my look. I'm good. Lower my hand. Um, I I guess the what there is no shortage of opportunities showing up in my inbox. I'll put it that way. And so what I try to do is what I do with my clients is try to focus on being clear about what it is I want to do, what my goals are, and how different things fit within what it is I am trying to do so that I can select the opportunities that most align with where it is I'm trying to go. Because as I said, if I went with everything that was in my inbox, I could spend all day every day. Um, and I've got a couple of different things going on. One is I am a lawyer. I don't practice a lot of law, but I'm still required to do CLE to keep my bar license. And so finding time to add that in with the things that I'm most interested in, which is the coaching and consulting. And so making sure that there are times for me to just sit and think about what I want to bring to my clients and what I need to learn in order to stay on top of what's happening in the business world for them. And sort of keeping that why as a part of it helps to keep me on task and on track. So.
Okay, cool. All right. Pam, you are up next. How do you keeping on top of things?
Okay, well, thank you, Bobby. I keep on top of things. I have a list of people that I think are important in my industry. I'm in the financial coaching industry, wealth coaching, and I make sure to reach out to them on a monthly basis. I also belong to different communities that are run by people that I view as my mentors, or I just like being in the same room with financial coaches and talking. I mean, the trend I'm seeing now is insane. So I want to know, am I a fluke, or is this really going on in other places? So different communities. I sign up for different programs. Like I knew at the beginning of the year, I wanted to look into nervous system development with money. So I knew who to follow for that. So I just, keep my eye on what's going on out there. And then I just insert myself into it so that I can stay abreast of what's going on in the industry.
Okay, cool. Carrie.
Thank
Hi, thank you. Hi. I want to echo what the previous speakers have shared. I do very similar things to keep on top of things. I am a former lawyer, but because I'm no longer practicing, I don't have to keep up with the CLE part. But similarly, I apply what I learned from staying on top of that for years, which is I read a lot. Like I read about 100 books a year at least. Now, a lot of them are fiction, so I chew through those pretty quickly. It helps to keep me interested, but I try to follow along with the books that are in the key areas in the industry that I'm coaching in, which are executive and C-suite leaders, and primarily women. So I'd say stay on top of what's happening around gender equality. We're about to celebrate Gender Equality Week here in Canada next week. To find out what's going on around the world, staying on top of that by following key people as well. I do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, and I follow leaders there that I think have their finger on the pulse, and looking at what they're doing. And reading articles like Harvard Business Review for one. So that helps me in my industry, and then like others, I find it really helpful to be involved in a number of different communities. Other business owners, so I'm learning from them what they're facing in their businesses, which then I try to look at cross-pollinating. So I try to be an interdisciplinarian, if you like. So a pull from psychology, I pull from neuroscience, I pull from business, I pull from military, which is not my field at all, but I think there's something about how the military's discipline and structure that can help all of us, and take the best and leave the rest. I always like that adage when I'm learning, is take the best and leave the rest. So that's what I try to share with my clients as well. So thank you.
Excellent. All right, Jenny.
Hi. Yeah, I would echo everything. Everyone's made great points. I think the one thing for me that I sort of keep coming back to is to really just trust myself. I think that in the, industry, in the world that's changing so quickly, whether it's a new social media platform, first it's Instagram, then it's TikTok, then it's Snapchat, then those are done. And then we have a whole new, you can sort of kind of keep chasing kind of the can down the road. And I think for me to just come back to, I think all of us are kind of on this earth to be sort of trailblazers and kind of do it our own way. And so I think to trust our own instinct, I know for me, it's just, I keep coming back to that. And so, definitely learning and developing, but really, I think we all know kind of they're great resources and great tools, but I think at the end of the day, like that guidance comes sort of first from us. And then I think that will bring in the tools that help us. But I think really we're amazing women. Trust ourselves.
Excellent. Okay, Kate.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to say the dreaded M word. I multitask. So I try to find the efficiencies in other things I'm doing in order to stay on top of trends. So when I have my one morning a week where I go and apply for some speaking opportunities, one of the first things I do is cut and paste the existing agenda or the agenda from last year, whatever they have on their site, and I stick it in my word cloud tool. And so if I get 10 of those done a day and I stick all the agendas in the word cloud tool as a great big running thing, it'll pop up what word showed up the most. So I make note of all those words and think, oh, like that's how I stumbled onto AI. Not that I was the first person to stumble, but in my world, the first time I stumbled onto AI is because it popped up in a word cloud of like, AI, what's going on with this? And then I added that to my list of maybe this is something I need to be learning about. Maybe I need to be developing something in my skill set around AI. So I look at, or when I'm speaking at a conference, I grab the agenda. And I'm not one of those people that likes to kind of fly in, talk, and fly back out. I like to stay and attend the sessions. So when things like AI pop up in my word cloud, then I look at conferences that are happening in other industries that aren't mine and look for that word and think, well, what else are they talking about? Where else can I get information? Where can I find a free webinar on that word? Where can I go and look for other topics? And the word cloud helps me see what the next layers are of popularity and what's happening underneath the system. So then expand that out over any topic that you're trying to learn more about, whether it's personal development, active listening, whatever, or industry topics that you're trying to get more insight into or become more educated about, so you're ready for it when it happens. So it's not true multitasking, but it's kind of, I'm trying to be efficient with all this stuff I'm doing at the same time.
Excellent. Okay, Jackie.
Kate Hollowitz, I'm always learning from you. I love that. So I would say, in addition to what everyone has mentioned here, I'm also an avid reader. I'm always probably going through about a book a week. So I keep a list, though, of book recommendations along with my Amazon wish list or wherever I'm buying the books from. I have the list so I can go through and I know the different topics that I want to learn about. And I try to rotate it so that it's not overwhelming. So I do work as a relationship mindset coach. So if I'm looking at something that has to do with a skill set that I'm going to implement with my clients, a way to further understand trauma, et cetera, that's one category. I also chair the Global Wellness Institute's Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Initiative. It's a topic I'm very interested in as well. So I make sure that I'm rotating. So maybe one week I'm reading on something around trauma or healing, and another week I am reading on race, ethnicity, gender identity, etc. That way I'm staying abreast of all of that. I'm also intentionally networking. So as I'm spending time with people, I'm learning from them, taking their recommendations as well, and getting insight into it and seeing what piques my interest. And when I sign up for things, because I don't always have the capability, the capacity to learn, I do have a file where I save recordings. So I know that when I'm ready, I can go back and look at them, and I go through phases and waves of when I can actually take information in and when I can't.
All right, I have to ask. Multiple books at a time or one book at a time?
Super question. Most of the time, it's only one book at a time, but there are some books, like I just read one of Robbie Samuel's books, that you have to really be at your computer to read. So then I need something that I can read other times too.
Okay. Who else is multi-books at a time? Interesting. I have like 8 going right now. It's a problem. All right, Leah.
Great suggestions, and I saw myself in so many of these comments already. I'll add that, so I'm a multi-book person because I am very curious by nature. And what I find is I'll listen to a podcast and it will lead me to my next kind of questions and areas that I want to look into. So as an example, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the person who was being interviewed was someone who I was curious about. I was actually researching them because I think they have adjacency in my speaking area, per Bobby's suggestions to research your competitors. And I found him on a podcast as a guest, listened to the podcast. He recommended, it was a documentary, started watching the documentary. So I'm learning about something that, someone in my area of leadership and using intuition to make leadership decisions. So I was learning something new about that area. The thing I'm trying to get better at, though, and I'm curious if anybody has ways that work for them, I take notes, copious notes. I'm listening to the podcast, I'm reading the book, I'm highlighting. I want to get better at processing that information. And so capturing the note and then finding the connections, because I'm kind of in a world that there isn't a lot of already defined research or data on. So I'm trying to kind of connect the dots myself. So maybe in the chat, if anybody has some ideas about how they're connecting all the great things they're learning and synthesizing that, I'd love to learn about that.
It sounds like a job for AI. Dump it all in, see what it pops out. Yeah. Diane agrees with me. All right, Marcia.
Hello. So I made a list as people are talking too, and I'm a voracious reader too. And I remember years ago, I needed to focus on learning more about leadership. So I was reading 5 to 10 books a week, and that's easy because I travel. When I travel, it's like I love those 4, 5, 6 hours on the airplane. I can get through 2 or 3 books. So that's just me. But ever since I was little, I've been a huge reader. So, and when you asked about like synthesizing, when I take a topic like that, and then I also highlight, I sometimes, when books are really good, I sit down at the computer and I type up what I've highlighted. And then if I do that for a few books, then I can synthesize. And then if I turn around and teach it and make exercises based on what I've learned, that's how I take it to a deeper level. So, but as far as other things that I do, there's one conference I go to every single year. I've gone for more than 10 years. It's in Redwood City, California, and it is Startup Grind. And they have a couple of thousand, 2,000 or 3,000 attendees from all over the world. And these are entrepreneurs it's the structure is one person interviews usually a CEO. So let's say a venture capitalist will, or a Wall Street Journal editor will interview one, like the CEO of LinkedIn or the CEO of Salesforce or somebody like that. And that's like 3 days of intense fire hose learning. And I love to go because it's what's new, what's different, what's coming. It's that intensity of getting it all at one time. And so I would say I mentor, I volunteer on boards. I go and buy magazines that are totally out of my field so that I can just read different things and different thinking. I write almost every day, at least 30 minutes for different things, newsletters and so forth. I do polls on LinkedIn so that if I have a question and I want to know what people are thinking, I put it out there as a question on LinkedIn. And if 100 or 1,000 people answer that, then I'm starting to get some thinking of going around that. So there's other things, but those are a few. We can't hear you, Bobby.
That would help if I unmuted, right? Elena, you're up.
Hi, everyone. My name's Elena Zucker, and learning and development is my field. So I'm so glad we're talking about this because really I'm a trainer turned speaker. So I do both, and I have learned many different aspects of my learning and development business because things are changing so quickly. So, during COVID, we did virtual. Now I have a very steep learning curve because I'm creating a program that is kind of business to consumer. I'm creating a version of my Secrets of Influence program for coaches. So I'm learning how to do different things with my website, like to make it into an e-commerce, and like my head breaks some days. I do have a coach that helps me with this, but you have no idea. When you sign up for something and you get thank you, and then something will be in your inbox. Well, I've had to learn like how to do that on my own website. So like that's one thing that's really breaking my head. And the other thing is a different kind of writing. 100 years ago, I was in the advertising business, but now I'm having to write very salesy kinds of stuff to promote this new effort. And I belong to a mastermind group. Many of them are advertising copywriters. So I'm learning amazing tips from them. So that's kind of one area. The other thing is in terms of AI. So during COVID, I teamed up with a team of young people. That's always, for me, wonderful learning. What are these young people doing? And these people are e-learning technologists. So we've teamed up to create an e-learning version of my program. And now we're putting it into AI. And again, that's like breaking my head. So it's just all, I trust that I'm smart enough to learn this stuff. So that's all I want to say. And I love what everybody said. And I love the idea of the word cloud. That is so brilliant to see what words are popping up because it's like right there available. Thanks.
All right. And I think we've got one more person and then we'll head off to breakout room. So Marta, you're up. Oh, it's still there.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I think I'm a forever learner, but I'm also always too busy and not very patient. And I really am not good at reading business books. So what I do is that I find people who produce business books, or I go to the TEDx talk, or I go to a talk or something, or a podcast, so that I can get the gist from a book. And if I then want more, then I'll go back and dive in. But what I do most often, I also run a podcast for which I perpetually research subjects and stuff, is that I just find somebody who's an expert in the subject, and I and so I try to connect with these people, and I ask them to kind of tell me about some of the basic things or the most important things in that subject, and also kind of take some tips from them, saying, if I have a limited amount of time to get my head around this, where would I start? And then how deep I go into it is usually driven by or I find it so exciting that I keep going. Because if I find it exciting enough to keep going, then apparently it's the right thing.
Got it. Okay. We lost you a couple times in there, but I think we got the gist of it. We are going to head off to do some breakout rooms. And the idea here is we'll send you with some questions. So our team will drop the link to those questions into the chat, and that will enable you to bring up the PowerPoint with the questions. Laura just dropped those in the chat. It's a Google Doc for anybody that is able to grab that link. But you don't have to answer all the questions, but this is a great opportunity to have a conversation with a small group and be able to come back with some ideas. So the questions that we have on that Google Doc include things like, how do you make time for learning on top of your day-to-day work? What's one skill you're working on right now? And do you have any tools, platforms, strategies to track personal growth? And how do you find, and here's the important part, how do you find and vet the best courses, classes, books, all of that? So we're going to divide you up into some smaller groups, and again, assigning somebody to come back with a with what it is you are bringing to the table, or dividing it up, whoever can speak to the group, so that we can all share in the knowledge that has been shared in the group. So, all right. Well, welcome back, everybody. I hope that was useful conversation. People learned some new stuff. I popped in on a few of the rooms, and definitely heard some things that I want to hear more about. So any of our spokespeople or volunteers, can you use that raise your hand, and we'll jump in. I see Dana using the physical hand. So got Jackie, then Pam, then Dana. So let's hit it. What did you guys discuss? What did I miss?
So in our group, we have a theme. Our 3 words are prioritizing, intuition, and intention. So there was a space of trusting yourself, of staying in your lane. So you're prioritizing, feeling into what you're doing, creating new atomic habits, finding accountability partners, using a resource called Keep for organization. And then when we are vetting, to be intentional about who we're choosing, right? So one thing that we talked about, that I specifically mentioned, was the idea of looking at women that are writing, creating content, doing the workshops, and being intentional about choosing those voices, choosing diverse voices, looking for women of color, for different gender identities, etc.
Yeah, that's great. You do often get, when books are being recommended, not as many women business writers and big idea writers get recommended. There are just as many of them out there, just the recommendations tend to fall down a bit. All right, Pam?
So we kind of went in order, and the first one was, how do you make the time? And you just have to make the time. You know, as bad as that sounds, you just have to make the time. A couple of people did calendar blocking or time blocking. They had purchased some courses and were wondering how to get through it. And if they did 30 minutes a day, that would work well. So that seemed to work very well for a couple of people. And then the intuition, someone had said, who went before me? Whoever went before me, Jackie? We talked about intuition too, because people are embracing intuition and some are wondering how to incorporate like a holistic approach with their business. Another person, the skills that they're working on are marketing skills, how to find places to speak, because they want to transition from e-learning to facilitation and speaking. And then one of our women talked about Growth Day by Brendan Bouchard. That's a personal growth. And then it was interesting when we talked about finding and vetting different courses and things. Someone talked about she had heard a particular course from a podcast, and then someone from our group had mentioned it. And so that was just a sign. So sometimes you need to listen to your signs and do it that way. That's all.
Awesome. All right. Dana?
Hi. All right, so we wanted to, so we understood all the questions to have relevance to one another. So we did talk about it in more of a fluid form, but there were certain themes, and one theme was this group, as in, I think this whole group, continuous learners, people who really enjoy it and think it's important, find great value, either whether it's through reading books, listening to podcasts, going to seminars, talking to people live in real life, in the field or in other fields to bring in new information. And I think Diane had said that there's a business book club, which I had not heard of. Bobby said she hasn't heard of what a business book club is. So, and she put the reference in the chat. As far as like skills and shoring up skills, and certainly for continuous learning, you're always going on that direction, whether you're recognizing it or not. But in our group, there's someone in a PhD program who's pivoting to a new field, somebody who's getting a new certification, somebody who is listening to podcasts and seeing what the interview teaches them about new areas or new things to learn or new books to read. And for me, it's learning about how to be a better speaker online, whether it's in a podcast interview or whether it's in a presentation. I talk to people live a lot, but not really online. As far as the tech is concerned, we mentioned this tech called Notion, which is a brain dump of information, database, blogging, personal information that puts it all together so it could be referenced and that their sources can be linked to that. And really manual efforts to create a calendar which has silos of information to keep track of new things that you want to get back to at another time. For me, when I'm online or on my phone away from my computer, I actually take photos of different things, and that ends up being my list of things that I want to return to follow up. Do I want to investigate it more? And then if I don't, I will delete it off my phone. So my phone sort of keeps that record for me as well. So I think we were sort of all very excited about the prospect of being able to find ways to continue to learn, enjoy the ways that we currently do learn, and find people who like to do what we do, which is continuous learning and upping our skills, whatever they may be. It's this excitement about learning, which I think is really pervasive in this group.
Excellent. All right. Anyone from any of the other rooms want to share?
I've got room 4.
Okay.
And you know, we had a really kind of fun, interesting conversation. We're all kind of along the same lines and thinking about the way we were looking at it. Time boxing for sure. You know, the group that we had, we're business owners, we're not employees. And so We have the ability to control our calendar. So I think when Pam said, like, you have to make time, like, you have to create and carve out that space. And we also looked at it and kind of thought about it as like, well, you've got your 9 to 5, and then there's like the 5 to 9 in the weekends. And I look at it as like work-life integration. So I don't really think of myself as getting like days off all the time. It's like we have to make the time and do it when we can. So, you know, it's podcasts when you're walking the dogs or in the car. It's reading books at night before bed. It's, you know, seeking out informational interviews with subject matter experts by reading their book and then writing to them about the book and asking if you can get an informational interview. And like, that's actually worked for me quite a few times. And so we've talked about kind of that time boxing, because ultimately you control your time. So if the barrier of not making, if you don't have time, the barrier is you. And you need to figure out a way to help you kind of move past this barrier of creating the space. When we spoke about skills, you know, I shared that my skill that I'm really focused on developing right now, there's two particular ones, which is, you know, mastering my AI prompting and AI engineering, prompt engineering. I love the paid pro version of ChatGPT. I think Claude AI is great. And we've talked about, you know, everybody kind of, you know, is nodding their heads of like, yeah, we're all kind of in this. We need to learn how to leverage AI. Also, a couple of us were talking about content creation skills that, you know, as business owners and brand builders, building content for the discovery platforms like a TikTok or Facebook is right now more important than essentially like going deep on Instagram as an engagement platform, you know, that kind of stuff. So, but building, like becoming a content creator for social media is a skill set. It is a capability set. And it requires not only kind of the understanding of how to shoot and edit, but also the tools that you need to actually edit and publish. And we shared that there's a good product called Loom for video editing for kind of beginners. And then also there's a really cool tool that I shared with the group that if you have a long form like video that you've shot that is you speaking, or it's a great piece that you've kind of riffed on and you just kind of want to pull the best nuggets out of it, there's a great tool called Opus Clip. And Opus Clip will literally just kind of generate these kind of social promotional little bites. And I've been experimenting with it. You can see this on my TikTok channel, and you can see it on my LinkedIn page, that I've been experimenting with some of these little pieces. And so that's the upskilling that, you know, we've talked a little bit about. We've also talked about LinkedIn training, right? You know, just this morning, one of our colleagues in here attended a LinkedIn you know, skills webinar, because LinkedIn's changing all the time and we kind of need to stay abreast of it, and making sure we're staying updated and skilled there. When we spoke about kind of how do we find the courses that we would want to take or invest, it really is about word of mouth. And then it's really about kind of discovering them a little organically wherever you may be, because they may want to find you where you may be, right? So those opportunities. I also shared that, you know, when we talk about looking at trends and we're looking kind of like what's coming around the corner, you know, I pay attention to the big consulting groups. They all have research newsletters, and they're always elevating that of like what's coming around the bend if you pay attention. And so I've found those to actually, even though I don't necessarily love the practices of like McKinsey and Deloitte, which is like slash and burn businesses, they have great researchers. So we focused on, it's really word of mouth and referrals from how do we pick find the courses or classes or books.
Great. Okay. I've got just 2 minutes left. Did we get to all the groups? Yes, think so. All right. I'm going to drop one more reminder with the link to tomorrow's webinar in the chat. And again, this is fodder for our articles for Lioness Magazine. So we thank you all. And hopefully you all got some new interesting tools out of it. But watch for that article where we will bring it all together and hopefully link everything up to make it easy to find. Maybe we'll just drop it all into Chat GPT. No, we don't do that here. We have real live writers that do amazing work. So, but there will be the video if there's anything that you want to refer back to. And again, thank you all so much for coming. And we will see you next month, if not before. So take care, everybody, and have a good rest of your day. Bye bye.